fuck, marry, kill. All right. J.J. Abrams. Democracy. Lasagna.
Okay. Okay. It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. That's why I asked you.
I think marry J.J. Abrams. He'd be very supportive.
Good call. He's real.
He's
also
real.
Human.
He's a human. Real. He support other people's projects. Like he really brings people into the Bad Robot fold and like gives them opportunities. That seems really like that's really loving, I think. And
it's good in a marriage.
Plus, he's got like financial stability, creative expression. Kill democracy, fuck lasagna.
Nice, dude. Me too. Oh yeah. All right, we're cooking today.
This is our second attempt. I know that we said we were going to do weekly podcasts. We really genuinely tried last week, and then fucking Skype died. So fingers crossed this time we don't have the shitty lag problems that we were having last time, and we can just have a conversation like two human beings in the same room.
Yeah, I've been testing the thing all day. I've even moved the Wi-Fi extender to this room, so we're getting the direct bounce.
You got all those bounces right in the hole.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
So you haven't cheered up? You're still as sad.
I've had a really big week actually, just work wise, and I'm just feeling very tired.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm ready. I'm looking forward to being cheered up by my best bud, Michael. Always there to support, always complimentary. You know, nice things to say about me. Brings me a little bit of cheer. No like unnecessary criticisms about my style. No jokes about old Nick and his silly big nose. Yes, we get it. You're going on about it. It's just a fun hour of friends.
Yeah, I can promise about 60% of that.
Oh, good.
I think.
Perfect.
Why do you still have a fan in your room?
Because it was, well, I just don't want to give up on summer, I guess. I'm holding on to the hope that it might actually still be necessary. Today it was 23. Did I turn the fan on? No. But I might have.
You're not going to turn the fan back on until December. You heard it here
probably
first.
Right. I'm holding on to normalcy, you know. This is a pillar of my life, and if I give this away, then what's left, Michael?
Yeah, well, I get that.
What's left?
This isolation stuff is like I can't remember if I said this to you last time we attempted, but it's like it's Groundhog Day every day. Maybe it's a bit different for you because you've got different projects to work on and stuff, and maybe like more than one other person in the house. But every day, I didn't even realize it was daylight. You had to tell me it was daylight savings, and then I'd gained an hour the other day.
Yeah,
the whole of Thursday, I thought it was Friday. I got to like 10 p.m. and I was like to Emma, "Yeah, it's the weekend," and she's like, "No, it's not." As if it matters.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, but like, I don't disagree at all. It is definitely very, very weirdly repetitive in a very strange kind of time blurry way. But you still have more freedoms than I do. So just try and picture that. Like, you have you can get food in, right? You have some stores open. You have like more people moving around still outside. Yes, they've told you to sort of hang around, but I don't know if it's completely clear to every Australian listener that New Zealand is entirely shut. Like everything except for supermarkets and pharmacy. There are no cars on the road. You're not allowed to drive anywhere unless it's to go to one of those two places, the supermarket or the pharmacy. You can't go swimming. You can't go to the beach. You can't go for a hike. You can't go surfing. You can't go hunting. They've told you you can walk small amounts of like exercise laps within, I think they said like 5Ks of your house, but you can't drive somewhere and then exercise. You can run or cycle from your home and then return to that place. So like it is completely shut down in a way that's even another level of crazy kind of claustrophobic. That's
Yeah,
not me minimizing. That's just warning you about what's coming.
No. Well, there was a news story here from another yesterday or the day before where a learner driver was out on a drive and they couldn't justify it to the police when they pulled him over. And so they got a $1,600 fine that actually has since been dropped. But yeah, it's not quite like that. We live opposite a cafe and a row of kind of business, like a burger shop and a pizza thing and a cafe. And so there's always like soccer mums out there, and I go out there and have a chat with them and stuff, and it's great. Yeah. But for the most part, it's a ghost town.
Yeah. But what I'd kill for the luxury of getting some takeaway. Like I like cooking. I'm a pretty decent cook, but having to prepare breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day of the week on end is starting to
Totally.
Like I just got so used to, on a Friday night or like a Saturday for lunch or Sunday for lunch, you can just go and get a pie, or you could, get some Thai food or something. You just can't. You're cooking or preparing food every single meal, and that's weirdly the thing which is starting to get to me.
No, I feel you. We've admittedly been getting takeout way more than we should. At the moment, we had like 3 days in a row, actually.
Yeah, well, I suppose you're supporting local businesses as long as they're not
sure.
actually handing it to you.
Is McDonald's a local business? I don't know. No, I'm just joking.
They're not local.
Okay, well, they are local to us.
They're our local McDonald's. How is the work at home life? I mean, I know that you're unemployed, but you're living with someone who's working from home, and you're theoretically trying to find work, keeping yourself occupied with projects. Are you going into your a work zone and trying to sit down and be productive, or are you treating this like a holiday?
No, I'm not. It's a funny one because so I still got the radio, so still clinging onto that. I've still got something to do on a Monday, and that's good. I have gone a little bit crazy. I started making these weird videos, which I've actually started to make a lot of them, and going crazy. I can't tell yet if that's me going crazy or if that's me channeling the stir crazy into at least something creative. But it's been good actually. Apart from the looming threat of financial ruin, and not knowing because it's tough. I've applied for a few jobs and stuff, like I said in the last thing, but we're waiting for this JobKeeper thing to be announced or to actually go through Parliament, which has been no JobKeeper.
What's JobKeeper?
So they're actually going to pay. You haven't heard about this?
No, I don't pay attention to you.
Sound like my dad. Actually, he wouldn't have even said that. He just does it. He's an actions man. JobKeeper is this bill, whatever law that I don't know what it's called, that they're putting through. They're trying to get it through tomorrow through Parliament. Called so they're going to pay all workers, casual or full-time workers, $1,500 a fortnight, no matter how many hours you did. Wow. Everyone. So people working at the cinema 2 shifts a week.
Yeah.
$1,500 a fortnight. Full-time people like me, $1,500. Everyone.
You don't have to show any loss of income. That's just universal. That's a federal handout.
No, so that is paid to your employer so that your employer can keep you on the books.
Oh, interesting.
So it's basically trying to keep people on the businesses.
So you're actually still not going to be receiving any of that money if you're not working, but it's an incentive to cover the overheads for businesses to keep you around. Is that right?
Yeah, I won't be. I still haven't. Our work situation's tricky because they don't know when they're going to reopen.
Yeah. But it's not meant to pay people's salaries. It's not actually going to end up in workers' hands. It's staying at the business level
it is
defray their costs.
It is. No. It is. This is for wages, specifically for wages.
But are they paying you even if you are not working?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
They're paying businesses $1,500 per fortnight per employee that's eligible. But you have to work for 12 months.
And the business has to give it to the employee.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And the only stipulation, there's a couple of stipulations, but one of them was that you had to have been employed by that company for 12 months.
Right. Okay.
So I'm waiting for that. I haven't. Tricky thing with the work situation, they were like, if you need a separation certificate in order to access government entitlements or whatever, then you'll probably need a separation certificate, which I mean...
What a euphemism. What a euphemism. A separation certificate. Here's proof that we fired you.
They're basically... No, they're asking for if we want that, we have to resign, which I haven't done.
Wait, if you
want to separate
if you want to be able to apply for job loss funding, you need evidence that you've been fired.
Well, my understanding was that you needed a certificate from your employer saying you're in stand down or you've separated from the company.
When you're saying separation, do you mean fired, or is that a term of art that they've now invented for this situation where people are unable to work during the hiatus but theoretically are still employed?
The company I work for is not going to fire us.
Okay, that doesn't answer the question.
We're in stand down, and if we want to separate from them, we have to say we have to resign.
Okay.
What?
What am I not getting? Just like the useless way to answer a very direct question. But it's fine. I get the picture eventually.
I'm answering it how I know how to answer it.
Yeah. So it is... it is...
Like a div. Still say div?
A separation certificate is proof that you have resigned or been fired from a company.
Yes.
It is not...
Your Honor.
It is not merely a thing that says we're not currently paying this person or they've been stood down, but you have to have quit.
Have you never been on Centrelink?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh!
It's not a great gotcha question.
That really
I rest my case. Your Honor.
Oh, speaking of I rest my case, George Pell is back in action, baby. Woo!
Yeah.
And a win for pedophiles everywhere.
Yeah.
George Pell is on the loose, single and ready to fiddle.
That is slanderous, and I will give you a chance to retract that now that he's been legally had his convictions for pedophilia overturned.
Really? But he was found guilty. Oh, so that means he's not guilty anymore?
Correct.
I thought they were like, I thought it was like more of a technicality thing.
Yeah, no, they undid the conviction, so he has not been convicted of it.
Well, it's a weird one because I saw
you could call him an accused pedophile.
Sure, I'm going to call him a.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to bleep that.
Really?
Yeah,
we're fancy. We're litigating ourselves. Ew.
I don't know what litigating means.
I'm actually making that joke, undoing the point that I'm about to make, which is I saw a lot of hate backlash against it on social media and stuff. And I was thinking well, I mean, if the High Court decided that there wasn't enough there, shouldn't do people just have no faith? People have just decided that he's guilty. Sure, a jury found him guilty, but it's the High Court. We should have.
That's I think where the concern comes from, because look, I've been properly busy these past couple of days, so I haven't read the decision from the High Court or anything in particular detail. But I think the reason that people are disappointed in this is because it went to a jury. A jury sat there and they heard all of the evidence. They heard the evidence from the prosecution and they heard the evidence from the defense. And they sat down and they deliberated and made a call. And what the High Court decision said was basically, we think the jury did not correctly decide this case. And I think that's what is potentially their legal right, but also seen as the, miscarriage of justice is potentially the wrong phrasing, but that's why it riles people, because it feels like the jury sat there and they heard that evidence and they made that choice as our system allows, and now the High Court has stepped in and said, actually, you got this wrong. You didn't think about it properly. You didn't know what you're talking about. It will decide for you.
But really, what does a jury really know, though? I mean, they're just some guys.
I don't have time to explain our entire judicial system and how it works to you, Michael. At some point,
you're going to quick segment.
You're going to have to just put in just a slight amount of effort into any of your statements, because at a certain point, it just relies on you actually wanting to find out things rather than just making off the hip kind of judgments.
Not how I roll, baby. Not how I roll.
Welcome to this
from the mouth. You can go now. You can do the thing.
Welcome to Deep Thought, everybody. The pleasure is all mine. I've just been looking forward to this for a while. It's just nice to get a bit of an outlet, to feel like my social contact is reaching beyond the bounds of this house and into the ears of people all around the world. Sitting through the internet with me today is one of my associates, Michael. Say hi,
Best friends. Best friends. Ciao, Bella.
Colleagues.
That was Italian.
And I'm Nick. Hi, Nick. Hi.
Hi, Nick.
Hi. Thank you for asking.
It's weird that you can't tickle yourself.
I tickle myself all the time.
Do you? Why can't you tickle yourself?
You can't tickle yourself.
You can't tickle yourself.
You can tickle yourself. Come over here. I'll tickle you.
I'm very ticklish. You'd be able to tickle me by looking at me. Don't do Nicholas. Don't try and tickle. Well, now I can't say the rest of that.
Subtext text.
Like my dick pic the other day.
Yeah, thank you for sending me that. Michael sent me a picture of a penis out of the blue.
A big one too.
And I appreciated that you spent some time and energy to really think through, what kind of dick do I want to send Nick? I don't feel like I want to retread too much about what we talked in previous podcasts, nor in our aborted Friday night attempt. But is there any other corona stuff that you just want to touch on briefly? How is Australia looking? Do you feel like you're going to be in lockdown anytime soon? Actually, I'll start with a little story, which I thought was quite cute. Jacinda, in her presentation yesterday, announced... Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, announced that there was an exemption on the travel ban for the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy. So no one had to worry that they wouldn't be turning up. And I thought that was very cute and very sweet and considerate. And I think actually the Western Australia Premier did a similar thing as well. But I just thought that was fun.
What? Can I just ask a question about that? Mm-hmm. So it was the Easter Bunny and who else?
The Tooth Fairy.
The Tooth Fairy. So
you wouldn't want the Tooth Fairy to get an eye of the Easter Bunny, though. Two big chompers right out in the front.
I assumed that they flew across continents. And
I think that...
I mean, are they just catching air travel, like Air New Zealand?
Yeah. I think now it's actually like a private jet and or a helicopter, just because Air New Zealand's had to cut a lot of domestic travel routes in this sort of crisis. But it's just nice to know that they're exempt from these kind of limitations. That
is good. How big is the Tooth Fairy?
The Tooth Fairy is over 9
like a
feet
mosquito.
tall. but very like slim in like a creepy kind of Slender Man sort of way. Really long, extendy kind of creepy hands, and then reaches into your mouth and like pulls out the tooth.
No, she doesn't pull out the tooth, Nick. That's a dentist.
She
just gives you money for the tooth. She's taking the toothers, and then going back to a cave, presumably, and then doing something with these teeth.
Summoning Satan.
What's she doing? What is she doing? She's got a. Go on.
Well, it's a little known fact, but toothpaste is actually just ground up teeth mashed together into a pulp.
What? Are you serious? No, it's not.
That's why it's so good for your teeth. Yeah, exactly.
So teeth are good for the teeth.
Teeth are good for the teeth. It all adds up.
That makes sense in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like saying I don't have an analogy ready to go for that one. Sorry.
How's Australia doing?
Great. It's
cool.
Fine.
Okay, good. Well, we've recapped. I hope everyone at home is at home and
flattening the curve. The numbers are like a little bit of at the moment. There's a little bit at the moment of we got this baby under control.
Right, because a bit of overconfidence.
I think there's a little overconfidence at the moment. A little sense that an Easter's coming up this weekend.
So are people going to be able to travel? Have they locked that? Have they said
no?
They're still locked in.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So I think they're worried about people going.
Yeah.
But even today we went on a walk and I saw some guys tying up a boat. And I was like, where are you going with that boat? And they said, mind your fucking business. And I said, sorry. That didn't happen. But I did see them tying up a boat. And I did wonder where they were going with that boat.
Are churches closed?
Churches are closed. Yes, I believe they are.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. I hope everyone at home is taking care of themselves and feeling okay and gainfully employed and healthy and stimulated. Make sure you got lots of jigsaw puzzles. Let's talk about Louis C.K.
Louis C.K., the comedian?
Comedian, sexual assaulter, released.
No, that's not true.
It is true.
That's not true.
It is true.
No, it's not.
Why is that not true?
Not. He didn't sexually assault anyone.
Of course he did.
No, he didn't.
Why? Why do you think he didn't sexually assault someone?
He didn't sexually assault anyone. This is probably the problem.
Why did he not sexually assault anyone? What's your definition of sexual assault?
All right. You tell me how he sexually assaulted someone.
Because he whipped his dick out in front of people and masturbated in front of them, and they didn't want that.
In every case, he asked if he could do that. He shouldn't have asked. But in every case, he asked if he could do that. I went back over the New York Times article.
But just because someone
There was
doesn't
not one
answer...
case... There was not one case where he said, could you jerk off in front of you, where they said no, that he did. So that's not sexual assault. He shouldn't have asked.
But it is still sexual assault to put someone in that position, even if you do decline and he doesn't do it.
It's actually not.
You're pressuring people in a professional environment into a sexual situation that they did not consent to. That's not expected location for that kind of behavior.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
If you're in a workplace environment and someone comes up to you, if you're at work, if you're at your bar and someone came up to you and said, "Hey, can I jerk off in front of you right now?" Even if you say no, that's not acceptable behavior.
That's not a sexual assault, though.
If you're intimidating someone or making them feel uncomfortable in that way, then I believe it is on that scale.
I think it's an abuse of power, for sure.
I'm just looking up at what the definitions are so that we can have some clarity. Okay, understanding sexual assault and consent. What is sexual assault? It's used to describe a range of sex crimes committed against a person. It is any unwanted or forced sex act or behavior that has happened without a person's consent. It may include rape, indecent assault, or acts of indecency like exposure. It's a violent crime and is not always committed by strangers. Often the offender is known to the victim and can occur within relationships or marriage. It can be a terrifying experience that may have long-term effects on the victim regardless of their age, gender, status, culture, ability, or sexuality. What is consent? A person consents to sexual activity if they do it actively, freely, voluntarily, and consciously without being pressured into it. What is not consent? Not resisting is not consent. A person does not consent to sexual activity just because they do not protest or physically resist. A person does not consent to sexual activity if they allow it because of physical force or threats or fear of force. Being impaired is not consent. That one's fairly straightforward. Misunderstanding is not consent. A person doesn't consent to sexual activity with another person if they allow it because they're mistaken about who the other person is, or if they didn't understand what was happening. I think it's pretty clear that there are plenty of non-physical ways in which you can commit sexual assault, and it can happen between people who already know each other in ways that are merely exposure and that sort of thing. I think my argument that you're putting someone into that situation where it is entirely uncalled for would be on that spectrum, though I accept that you might see it differently.
Yeah, I'm certainly not denying that the guy's a bit of a perv, bit of a creep, and abused his power in asking women to jerk off in front of him, some of which said yes, some of which said no. But as far as I can tell, and we're talking about 5 women that we know of here, plus like people like Sarah Silverman, who whatever. So as far as we know, he hasn't actually done it. He hasn't actually gone ahead with the jerking off when he's been denied. But I'm not saying that he's technicality. He's out of the woods. He should never have done that. It's a creepy thing to do.
Abuse of power, as you said. Yeah,
definitely. And that's the worst. That's the worst thing to me, is that he abused his power. And like we said, his manager Dave Becky, the women of comedians in the business have accused him of kind of hustling them out or intimidating them as well. That's fucking bullshit. I hate that. Obviously, I hate that. But I think we do need to be careful about how we label this stuff. Like with the Aziz Ansari stuff. I mean, people say when we talk about this, I think even you said, I don't think anyone's holding Aziz or Louis on the same scale that they're holding Weinstein, but they are. They are doing it, and you just did it just then. With the labeling it sexual assault, and I get that there's like a gray area there, and it's tricky, and maybe I'm splitting hairs, but I think those things need to be there. I mean, we call murder, we have different degrees of murder. We have those for a reason. We need to have, there needs to be a scale from, Aziz Ansari to Harvey Weinstein. There needs to be there. But I'm not saying he's not a creep.
The assault thing comes back to my memories of criminal law, where I discovered the difference between assault and battery. You can assault someone without doing any physical thing to them at all. Assault is the threat of violence, and battery is a physical offense, right? So perhaps that's coloring my intent or my understanding of the phrase sexual assault, because it is the threat of or the intimidation about the thing, as opposed to, quote unquote, the battery equivalent, where it becomes a physical action, or indeed a followed through threat to request to masturbate. So I hear your point, and I don't disagree that there needs to be nuance in the way that people talk about one of the accused versus another. At the same time, I don't think it is unreasonable to talk about Aziz Ansari and Louis C.K. and Harvey Weinstein in the same breath, because they're all symptomatic of a larger issue, which is the ways in which men abuse their power about others. And perhaps you are sensitive to the fact that some people might hear that sentence and think, oh, so Louis C.K. did what Weinstein did. I don't know that necessarily occurs too much because of the coverage that all of them have had. But I take the point. At the same time, I think that they deserve to be spoken about in the same breath because they're all instances of terrible men making terrible choices about the way they treat others around them, even if the specifics of what they did are of different, quote unquote, offensiveness levels, if you like. Sure. But I don't think it's wrong to label those people together or to talk about the Me Too movement and the cluster of those names. Even if you go like down as low on the, I suppose, celebrity scale as like Dan Harmon and the way he treated Megan, what's her face? Yeah. Megan Gans, and flirted with her uncomfortably all through Community until she left, up to, the Aziz Ansari, where it was two people who misunderstood perhaps what was happening in a tryst, to the Louis C.K., where it was very clearly one person doing something that others were potentially less likely to misunderstand as to what the intents were, and then all the way up to the severity of the Weinsteins and that sort of stuff, where it was pure rape and just horrible.
I suppose we should say why we are talking about this in the first place. It's because Louis just dropped a special 2 days ago.
Well, can we go one more step back? Sorry, before that, let just chart a little bit more of that in between. So after the New York Times thing came out in 2017,
yeah,
he put out the letter admitting it, accepting that he had done things wrong. He was going to step away out of the limelight, take some time to listen, and to become a better person and learn from what he did. And that was his kind of statement. He went away for a year, maybe even less. What year was it when he came back? 2018?
What do you mean?
Before he started doing shows again.
Doing live shows again?
Yeah. Was it 2018?
I think we were having this chat around this time last year, so I reckon it was, start of 2019 maybe.
Yeah. It was not that long, and there was no public-facing news of this. He just started sort of turning up and going into the clubs to work on some sets. And there was a bit of a flurry, which is, as you say, something that we then talked about on the pod. And he continued to do shows. It was being recorded. There was a bit of a media storm about some of the lines that he was trying out, which were like telling the victims of school shootings to settle down and this kind of thing. And then he sort of went away out of the radar again, right? And he was still doing these shows, but the controversy of it was no longer novel. He was selling tickets. People were showing up. And the end result of that, as you said, was he just released this special coming up on 3 years since the original Step Away from the Limelight.
Yeah, I think the New York Times thing came out around like September or October in 2017. So it's like 2.5 years.
Yeah. And then you watched it. And I would like to know...
Bought it and watched it, yeah.
I would like to know your thought process leading up to that.
Yeah, so... look, I think I was always gonna buy it. It was always gonna happen. I've actually really never had that much of an issue, and I was thinking about this today a little bit. Like, is it just the separating the art from the artist? Is that what I don't have an issue with? I mean, I still listen to Michael Jackson. I mean, it's that, but then I'm like, well, when I'm watching, I haven't like sought out watching a Woody Allen movie, and that has kind of tainted my view of Woody Allen. And I guess I'm not denying that my view of Louis is completely, unscathed, and I'm like, yeah, go Louis. I mean, there's a part. The reason why I was always going to buy it, and the reason why I did buy it, and the reason why I'm glad that I bought it, is because he's a guy that I think is really good at his job. He's really funny. He makes me think, and I wanted to hear, given everything that's happened, I wanted to hear how he came out of that. Now, the issue that I think you think exists, and you sent me a message saying, I can't believe you're going to give this guy your money, is that we shouldn't be supporting financially a guy that has been, who has done some pretty, I don't know what to call it, done some horrific shit, kind of put women in a really uncomfortable position, made them, actively kind of gone after their careers or whatever, made them feel scared and, intimidated, I guess, is sexually intimidated, which is a horrible thing, to make someone feel that. But I wanted to, I guess I'm able to separate what service he provides me with the man that he seems to be. And part of this whole take away, cancel this guy's career or whatever, I mean, again, there's a sliding scale with this stuff, and you don't want Harvey Weinstein still producing movies. So then, part of my thought process on this, when you challenge me on it, is like, well, if I'm gonna allow, at least in my headspace, allow Louis to continue to work, or at least pay for the work that he's putting out there, why don't I hold him to the same candle that hold Harvey Weinstein to? I mean, I'm not really sure, but I think there's a part of me that thinks that the whole canceling of someone's career is kind of an arbitrary thing. It's like, why are we canceling someone's career? Like, is it just because that's what gives them, that's what keeps them in the spotlight? That's what keeps them in the forefront of people's minds? I mean, can't we just take away like a house or something? I'm kind of like forgetting what my initial point is, and then like elaborating on my last point, and then I don't actually know where I am on this point here, on this rant, Nick. You want to chime in?
I'll chime in when you've said all you wanted to.
Okay. Anyway, so I paid for this thing and I watched it, and I got to tell you, it was really, really fucking good. It was really funny. He addressed the allegation. Not the allegations. I'll stop calling them that. My bad. He addressed his wrongdoing, in a pretty interesting way. It wasn't overly remorseful, I would say, but it was. This is what happened. He made an interesting observation. He was like, it's a weird thing to go on the street and everyone knows what your thing is. And he was like, one of the jokes he made is, dude, Obama knows my thing. Do you know how it feels that Obama knows my thing? So it wasn't particularly remorseful, but I mean, part of what, we both love Louis, Nick. Like, I know, like, part of what I don't understand about your complete, like, dismissal of him is that, like, I know you admire his art. I know we both love him. And for me, just be like, nah, I'm not even going to listen to this guy. Like, aren't you curious about what he has to say about everything? At least? I mean, I get not wanting to pay for it. I mean, that's the other thing here. He's put it out there, and obviously Netflix isn't going to give him a deal or anything. And no, like, third-party corporations is actually going to be like, yeah, Louis C.K. So he's put it out on himself. The email is like, this is what, I'm basically cancelled, but here's this thing that I produced, put out completely myself. So people have the choice whether or not they can access this guy's product. That's the thing. Like, if you don't want to support this guy, you could absolutely do that. But what I guess I like don't really like is the judgment on people who do, because that is completely a personal choice. All right, I'm going to shut up now.
Alrighty.
Sorry about that.
No,
had a few warnings, maybe.
I wanted to give you the chance to hang yourself in the court of public opinion.
That noose is tight.
So a few issues, obviously. I'll go sort of backwards, I suppose, because I remember them most clearly. I did used to like and admire Louis C.K., but it is not true that I do anymore. It is a past tense. I'm sad that I have lost that really impressive comedic mind, but I can't take his art. I'm not willing to listen to his point of view anymore because I don't believe in his perspective. I'm not interested in hearing what he has to say, even about non-sex crime related issues, because I don't like him as a person anymore. And in the same way that I unfollowed your mum on Facebook when she was posting all of her shitty memes, I don't want to listen to just gibberish from someone that I don't respect.
That was real, wasn't it?
That's not a slam. Mum. I did unfollow your mum. We're still friends.
She does post a lot of shitty memes.
Yeah. I do respect your mum, but I don't want to see that content. The thing with Louis C.K. is that I just don't. I'm not interested in what he has to say. You can go back and listen to the podcast. I was hoping that he would take the time away, come to some reflection, and emerge a better person. Emerge and write the New York Times rebuttal to his own New York Times coverage and be like, I was a fucking asshole. And I've sat back and I've listened, and these are the things that I've internalized, and these are the things that I've learned. I was hoping that, like his character on the show, he would muddle through and end up somehow wiser or worldly or witty and become an advocate, turn his back on the things that he had done and try in some way to make up for it, right?
And can I just interject here? So is it that he hasn't? I mean, because how do you know that he hasn't? Does him making that public? Is that the metric by which you're going to judge this? Like he'll have to basically publicly confess, right?
Yes.
So you don't just trust that he's just doing this.
I have no evidence to believe that he has, right?
Right. Okay.
I accept that is somewhat an unfair burden, right? But it became a public issue, and he acknowledged it publicly. And more to the point, it's a standard that he set up for himself. When he acknowledged that this was true, he said he was going to do this. He said he was going to go away, think about what he did, become a better person, and he hasn't done that. That is a standard that he set for himself. So I don't think it's unreasonable when he made that public statement to then say, hey, didn't you say you were going to be a better fucking person? And to see no evidence that he has, to see no evidence that he has, attempted to direct his funds to, women comedians, tried to change anything about the thing. If he still wants to be a comedian, then working from within that industry to improve the way that it works. That is why, as a personality, I'm not interested in hearing his perspective anymore, because all that I now have to take away is the fact that he said he would do something and he didn't do it. And the things that I know he did, I think are pretty fucking horrible. So why do I want to listen to his perspective? Even if he has a great comedic wit, even if we know that he made a groundbreaking TV show, I'm not interested in him anymore because it doesn't deserve it. Taking one more step back again. In terms of the whole paying money for the thing, you say that he's really good at his job and that you see it as like a business transaction and you are spending money for the art separate to the artist as a person because he makes you laugh. Where does that money end up? Does the art get the money or does the artist get the money? The artist gets the money. It
enables the artist to keep making the art.
But it ends up with the artist, doesn't it? Maybe he uses it for good. Well, maybe he uses it for lube and just keeps joking off. Literally,
I did send it.
Literally, some percentage. Some percentage of the money that you bought on the special, some percentage of that is gone to buy Louis C.K. some lube.
Now, I had the same thought, and I'm just going to stop you right there because with the PayPal transaction, I left it. You can leave a note, and I said, Louis, this goes to your special, and specifically not on lube. I said that.
Wow. So I hear we talked about art versus artist in an entire podcast. Again, you can go back and listen to it. I'm not interested in spending money on someone who already had the privilege. He already had the platform. He already had the power. He already had the millions of dollars and the FX exclusivity deal. He had all this stuff already. I'm not interested in giving him more of that when he demonstrated who he was and then lost it. I'm more interested in giving money to people like Maria Bamford, who just put out a special, or Tig Notaro, or I haven't watched it yet. I've been busy this week.
It's a weird Maria Bamford's one it's like a documentary / special thing.
Yeah, I don't want to get too off track yet to talk about it, but I'm really interested because I fucking love Maria Bamford, and I like that her most recent special starts with one person in a room, and then two people, and then three people, and like blows out to like a full crowd, and then ends back with just a one-on-one show. It's fucking brilliant.
She is one of the greats.
She is. So the Louis thing with the money. Yeah, I have you bought any other comedic specials recently?
No, but this is the only way you could get it.
Sure. I mean, you could have pirated it, and that wouldn't have paid any money.
To be perfectly honest, I did check if there was a link, and there just wasn't, and I wanted it now. So that's kind of the reason why. I don't know. I don't know. My brother bought it twice accidentally. He accidentally pressed 2. And then he got a refund. That's not important at all. I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would have bought it. I did check for a torrent though. First.
Well, I think I'd just be restating myself to summarize and say that I'm not interested in his perspective because I don't like him as a human being. I don't think his character has demonstrated that he's attempted to learn anything from the experience. I don't want to support him financially. I'd much rather spend my attention on people whose voices are just as funny, in my opinion. People who are getting platforms now out of his shadow, like Tig Notaro or Pamela Adlon's series Better Things, which she's now made without any of his interference for a couple of seasons, and which is just as great and, in fact, a more interesting show now that she has full creative directorial control. Again, that's a subjective opinion. But there's so much content out there. There are so many people out there. There are so many things that make me laugh. There are so many interesting voices, and there are so many good people that we know are good, and have made efforts to change themselves when they've done bad things. I was actually listening to an interview with Terry Crews of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He, obviously, huge, muscular black man, played in the NFL. He talks about, in a recent podcast of theirs, the episodes in Brooklyn Nine-Nine in which they tackle a couple of more serious issues like racial profiling, and sexual assault. And he talks about his journey as a human being, where he was literally in bar fights. He was classic NFL masculine jock asshole. He literally threw people up in the air and like got into bar brawls. He would be physically violent and abusive. He mistreated women. He disregarded them as having any sort of social status or worth. And then he describes how his view on that was changed, and how his sexual assault experience led to a completely world-changing view where I don't know if you knew this story or whatever, because he came out sort of early in that Me Too movement as well to talk about being assaulted by a male agent at a Hollywood party.
Someone grabbed his dick.
And how radically that sort of changed his outlook on the world and his understanding of power dynamics, because he, a literal NFL player, 7 foot tall, more muscles than any one person should have, found himself completely paralyzed in fear, completely in shock, completely in PTSD, was actually... It took his wife explaining to him that that what he had just experienced was sexual assault, and that she'd been through it, and every woman she knew had been through it, like, to actually change his mindset. And you listen to him describe who he used to be, what he used to do to people, the way he used to think of others, and how he had actually changed and grown and understood. And by the end of it, I was just thinking, that is a person who has put in the effort, who's made the changes, who has learnt and evolved. And that is all that I wanted to see from Louis, and he hasn't done that. And so when there are so many good other options out there for entertainment, for the women that he oppressed, unfortunately, I don't think they'll ever get the opportunity to really have the platform to recover. But for me, as a consumer, I find it morally mystifying to want to support a man like that. I find it really kind of confusing.
Right. I guess that the thing that I am slightly confused by, I get that. I mean, part of liking a comedian is definitely their personality. Like, you can have a guy that is, on paper writes really good jokes, but there's just something about him, like Chris D'Elia or something. You're just like, fuck, that guy's such a douche. But, he says some funny things, I guess, whatever. But you just you have to like a comedian. So their personality is totally wrapped up in it. But at the end of the day, part of me is just like, I mean, these guys are just telling jokes. Since when did, when the Louis thing came out with, he was coming out with these there was a trans joke and a school shooting joke, and everyone was like, yeah. When people were coming out and saying this, you shouldn't be making jokes about school shooting and stuff like. I mean, these guys are making jokes. I mean, since when did they need to be the guys saying, exactly the right thing at the right time? I mean, these guys. I mean, obviously that feeds into good joke telling. I mean, if the truth is funny. If you're speaking truth to power, or you're saying that the funniest things are the truest things, and they kind of like, that's that thing that I've always been thinking about, that's funny. But at the end of the day, they are comedians. So part of what I'm kind of confused about is, why do we need these guys to be the moral arbiters of everything? I mean, they're not. They're just comedians. They're just joke guys. But I get the personality thing. I get that you need to like them. And if you don't like a guy, then you just don't like a guy, and that's fine.
I'm not holding them up to be a moral arbiter, but I think if their observations ring false to the audience member because the viewpoint that they're seeing things from is no longer accords with our understanding of the world, then they don't deserve. Then they're not doing their job as a comedian.
But Nick, so I gotta pull you up on this one though. This stuff that happened with Louis is happening before all those specials that you loved. So are you thinking? I mean, his jokes with respect to everything else, not sexual jokes or joking about the scandal or whatever, his jokes haven't changed. His perspective hasn't changed. Just the fact that you have discovered this has changed your perspective on him. So all this stuff happened, years and years ago. Well, not years and years ago, but at least 10 years ago. And since then, all those specials that you've loved, his perspective on thing was still valid then. So it's only your perspective on him that has changed, which I get. I'm not saying that I don't get that. I get that as well.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I don't think that's I don't think that's
in the context of what you know about him. You can't.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think that that holding up what was and what is and saying, hey, these aren't the same. Why are you not consistent in these things? I don't think that achieves anything. Of course it's different. It is because now our understanding of the perspective that he's actually got has colored the way that we interpret things. It's the same way that like some language becomes racist with more time. When you go back and you look at an old movie and you're like, ooh, that's very blackfacey. Ooh, that's not the words that we use yet. Or even in sort of innocuous ways where, like in a 1940s film, like a woman will come in and says, "Oh, it feels so queer in here," and you're like, "Okay, what our use of the words, our understanding of the context, the language, the angle, the objective, the subtext." The more information we have about things, the more that it changes our perspective. So the fact that now, if I went back and watched that entire fucking season where he's like perving on Pamela Adlon and they're having that weird bath together and he's basically playing out his own off-screen fantasies, where at the time that felt kind of transgressive and interesting in a way that it was like, oh, he's making himself look so creepy. Now going back and watching it, I swear to God, I'll be like, fucking out. Yeah, I'm out. I don't want to. I don't want to see it because now all of a sudden it's not a good-hearted attempt at talking about taboos, examining what is and isn't appropriate, seeing dramatically what those blurry lines are in a safe fictional setting, when it's actually, oh, this was what this guy actually was thinking and actually was doing off screen, and now he just gets away to like play it out for the show as well in a like a
you can say
in a voyeuristic kind of manner.
Yeah, so you're attributing the voyeuristic. I mean, I get it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Okay, he's putting it out there, but knowing that people are going to be watching him experience his kink, right? Like that there is other levels to it now that we know that he was doing this shit.
But you can't deny that that's not good art, though, because that's like, I mean, bringing up your most honest
That's such
truth,
a fucking slippery slope.
That's good art. Well, is it? I mean, why?
If a guy like who was raping people off screen goes and makes a rape film, is that good art? Because he's taking his abusive and psychotic tendencies from the real world and then like inflicting it on others again. Is that worthy?
Honestly, yes. I don't. Well, not worthy, but I do think technically it's good art, if it is good art. But I'm not saying it's. I don't
correct. Moral, yeah. Look, the definition of art is loose and provocative at the same time, but either way.
So, are you just not curious at all what he's because he addresses it, and it's I mean even if I was you, even if I hated the guy, I'd be like, I really want to hear this.
I'm curious into how he addresses it, But I think that he didn't need to make a financial product, a commercial product, and make money off his announcement of his side of the story or his perspective on the story, given that he has so many means and methods to do that, either through the press, either just personally in an email that's distributed and then covered as news. The fact that he hasn't made public statements ever since returning to the limelight, doing these shows again, that the only way that we could know his thought processes was to be in attendance or watch his product, is again another reason for me not to trust his sincerity in attempting to return to light. If he had written a Washington Post editorial in which he explained, this is why I'm going to go back into comedy, and this is why I have accepted what I've done, and this is why I'm willing to try again, and you can like it or not, I would read that article because I'm interested to know what he says. I'm willing to give him a chance to have his voice heard, but I'm not going to spend money just for the privilege of hearing him show no remorse for his actions.
But if a clip came up on YouTube on recommended thing that he talked about his thing, you would watch it.
I don't know, possibly. I might wait for a transcription, or like if it got coverage. No, but I mean,
it's like superstitious at that point.
Reading
the transcript and not
because it would be coming from an editorial perspective, I suppose, and I'd be interested to know what the broader context of how people had responded to it, as well as merely the source of his words. But anyway, the other thing that you said was, I'm not sure why people, why the thing is we need to remove them from their career, lose their jobs. I think ultimately the question is, what is the difference between someone who does this kind of behavior in an entertainment sector versus someone who does this in an accounting firm, right? If you were in an accounting firm and you brought in a younger, graduate CPA into the office and said, "Hey, do you mind if I jerk off in front of you?" The immediate implications of that would be you don't work at that accounting firm anymore. And the situation in comedy is it's backstage, it's at theaters, everyone's sort of freelancers or gigging or self-employed. Do you have a boss? Do you have those kind of legal liabilities? Is slightly different. I understand that there is nuance there, but at the same time, I think the impulse to say you have abused the power that you had in that setting, in the room, as an icon of that industry, you have abused that situation. I think that's why people say, unless you show that you are making an effort here, you don't get to go back in there again, because we've seen what you do in this context. The idea as well is these people are not going to be, unless you're at a Weinstein scale, where you're going to end up in jail and you're probably going to die there. These people having that avenue closed off for them is not going to see them on the streets. Louis C.K. can go and work in a grocery store and pack people's bags, or he can go and, serve dishes. He can go stand in like the entrance to a Bunnings and show people where the power tools are. There are so many ways that he'll actually be able to support himself. So he's not at any risk of suddenly being, quote unquote, unfairly penalized, if you like, for a lower tier assault versus Weinstein. He can still go off and make money. He can live out the rest of his lives. You know how many fucking thousands of people have the blossoming tiny little Hollywood success? They get 2 films, they're their biggest fucking star in the 90s, and then they never get heard of again. And their moment's over, and they go off, and some of them become school teachers, and some of them go work in a grocery store, and they live the rest of their fucking lives in anonymity. I don't think that it is unreasonable in this circumstance to say, hey, I'm not going to bring you to my club anymore, Louis, because you assaulted people that I brought to the club. So you're not welcome back here. Good luck to you. Go learn something.
And that has
retrain.
happened. And that has happened at a number of clubs. But the thing that I think kind of angers people.
Let me just underline and say that I don't think that it is wrong to take the job away from people when people fucked up that job. That's the end point.
When people fucked up that job. Yeah, okay. All right. I mean, the thing that I think is angering people about Louis releasing a special is that the annoying thing is maybe he can't be cancelled because he's basically just a guy with a microphone. If he can release a special by himself, as long as he's got his managers telling him that, yeah, you got plenty of people that are going to buy this shit, like schmucks like me, paying. Well, you charged $8 US, which was actually $13 AUD for the special. I'm sure. Apparently, I'm like I said on the last one. I'm listening to his openers podcast, and apparently on one of the ones that he released off his website, he made $1 million just profit off the last special that he just put it out. So I reckon after this, he's probably, for this special, the amount of buzz that is there, and with the whole thing, like I don't think he's lost I mean, he's gone away for 2 years, but I reckon he's probably made a killing from this. And if the guys you can't really cancel a guy that's self-employed as long as there is a market for it there.
Yeah, it's like the Fox News thing, right? Like if you can find the niche and make the money off the audience of that niche, then you're not accountable to anyone else. I mean, the thing was, I think it said something along the lines of he lost $35 million in terms of salary deals. and deals and this kind of thing when it happened. So, he would have felt some financial pain, I fucking hope. But you're absolutely right. Like he's still got an audience. There's still people turning up to his shows. There's still people buying his special. He would probably, as you say, definitely make more than the $1 million off this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess he's one of the first ones. He's one of the first cancelled guys that have actually... He's probably the only... I mean, Aziz had a Netflix... At least Aziz... A different case, obviously, but Aziz got a Netflix special. But, yeah, I mean, Louis' popularity, like you said earlier, actually, he's got such a fan base that he doesn't actually need it anymore. And he can just run off... presumably, I mean, that's the other thing. This is the thing that kind of gives me pause for thought, is that I can tell that the guys that are really championing his comeback, hot-blooded males, that they're all like, even if it's coming up on my YouTube recommendations, it's like Louis coming back. Yeah, it's like the Joe Rogan fan. It's like the Joe Rogan crew is like, yeah, fuck the PC police. Louis coming back, telling them like it is. Yeah, he's saying fuck you to the Me Too and fuck you to the PC, and that's the stuff that's like I don't want to get. That's what I'm like. I don't want to get, swept up with those guys. But I feel like there is actually a part of me that is actually getting swept up with it. But it's like a rebellious. It's a reactionary. It's a reactionary thing in a way. You don't want to. You think, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, interesting situation. Shall we boot up the old recommendation engine, since we've been talking about things to watch and what we've been musing about, and maybe we throw some other ones in the mix. Let me just
also, Nick, can I just say something right now? I really enjoyed that chat with you, and I love I love talking with you about this stuff, man. I love.
Thank you. Right?
I love I love texting with you about this stuff. Like even when you send me that text, I know. I kind of like already start building arguments again, like arguing with you in my mind against this stuff, and I just gotta say, I just love talking with you specifically about this kind of shit. And, sometimes you iron out my bullshit thoughts, and sometimes you put me further in my trench of whatever I'm thinking. But I'm just grateful that I can talk to you, and I got a guy like you that will listen to what I have to say and will tell me what you think and stuff. And I just love it. Thank you.
Well, that's very sweet. Thank you. I like having these chats with you, and I like having to think about my positions as well. I mean, that's the benefit of a discussion, right? Where you're exchanging ideas and both forced to think about why you believe the things you believe.
Totally, and I think that's why we're friends, man. We disagree on a surprising amount of stuff, and I think that's part of why we're friends. That's part of why I'm glad to have you as a friend, and that's part of why we're the number 3 podcast in Lithuania. It's because of the
dynamic,
the friction and the camaraderie that's there, and the combination of those two, boom, baby.
That's the famous. That's catnip.
It's Mentos in a Coke bottle. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what the Vilniusians love over in Lithuania.
Do you think we're the longest running podcast without ever having an actual sponsor?
No.
Do you think we're actually the longest running podcast?
I think we might be I think we might have the largest ratio of years on the air to low viewers. We've been going the longest for the least amount of return.
Yeah. Well, that's basically
to the benefit of so few.
I'm going to start making some fake ads for this shit.
Yeah, let's do it.
I got nothing else to do.
All right. So let me find the keys, because I want to start this recommendation engine. Welcome to Deep Thought's recommendation engine.
I thought you were going to go to like a vroom, vroom, vroom.
No, if you look, as you just heard, everyone can skip back to the start of the jingle.
I remember
There's an engine. There's a diesel engine.
I remember it. Sorry. I do.
And then it's like a little bit of nice, cool, jazzy piano with an engine.
Oh, that was sick.
Oh, cool. Alrighty. I got a couple of things I'd like to throw forward for people looking for a little bit of lockdown entertainment. Times are strange out there, looking for things to keep yourself amused and occupied. TV show to start with, Josh Thomas's latest series, Everything's Gonna Be Okay, which is on Stan. I really loved Please Like Me. This is his sort of first show after that, and he did a deal with an American network. Please Like Me was actually funded in the later years by an American network as well, which subsequently shut down. This is a new network and a new show set in America. Started off a little bit uncertain as to whether or not the tone was what I wanted, and setting like an American voice with him starring in it. An Australian voice with him starring in it in an American context is a bit weird. But then it settled into this really nice groove. It's about him with his 2 half-sisters, one of whom has autism, one of whom is like 12. It's just a really nice sort of low-stakes family kind of drama, but yet touches on some really interesting issues in the autism sort of character realm, talking about consent with like a high-functioning person with autism who wants to have sex, who wants to get drunk, who like wants to do all these normal human things. But how does consent work when someone has autism? How does is it statutory rape?
Is he autistic?
No, this is a sister character played by an actual actress with autism. He has ADHD, which he discovered aged 29, much like you. And the
the first time I've heard it.
We did an ADHD test on this podcast, but you forgot about it.
Got diagnosed.
We did an ADHD test on this podcast, and you forgot about that because of your ADHD. We literally,
Dude, I probably got
we
autism
literally
too.
did this.
I remember that.
We
You
literally
snaked me
did
into
that.
it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Anyway, everything's going to be okay. It's if you like Please Like Me, it's really nice. It's on Stan over there, I think. Michael, anything else?
I watched a great movie called The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss.
Oh yeah.
It's a horror thriller. I was looking up on this movie. Apparently, it was going to be part of the. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but maybe not the Marvel,
The Dark Universe,
Well,
the
but it was
Universal's
like-
monster movie kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then after some movie tanked.
The Mummy.
Yes, you know everything. I knew. After the Mummy tanked, they decided to put more of a focus on independent movie making. I saw this movie. It's like I didn't know really what I thought it was going to be like a ghosty maybe thing. It turned out I don't know. Whatever. It was a great movie. Elizabeth Moss. Check it out.
I think it's James
for sure.
Wan, right? The director James Wan, who is an Australian director.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I think I'm thinking of
it. Also, Jeremy Renner has just released a new album. It's called The Medicine. I haven't listened to it, but I think you should listen to it.
Wow. Great.
I went through a couple of track listings, and look, I've actually heard a snippet of a couple of his songs, and it's obviously terrible. But Jeremy Renner. I mean, this is a guy. It's just like so. Look at that, Nick.
Oh yeah, no,
Look at
I've
that
seen the
artwork.
key art. Yeah, there's that one shot of him
God
like
damn
lying
it.
backwards on the piano. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, yeah, that's the album cover.
yeah.
And go check out. Go check out the album, "The Medicine" by Jeremy Renner.
Can I just say,
What was that
comedically, I
sound?
like the idea that you've made a terrible suggestion.
It's not a terrible suggestion.
Psychologically, holistically, conceptually, don't like that you've turned the recommendation engine into an insincere recommendation engine so early on in a new segment's life.
Sorry,
But
I'm not. This is not an insincere recommendation.
you haven't listened to
say
this.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I recommend listening to this album, but because I know it's going to be fruitful, this is the track list of Jeremy Renner's album, The Medicine. Number 1, The Medicine, Never Sorry, Every Woman, Best Part of Me, Ghost and Roses, December Days, Main Attraction. Kill yourself, Jeremy Renner. That is...
It's a strange final track. Kill Yourself, Jeremy Renner. It's
couldn't-
very meta as like a closing
We can't
number.
tell if Jeremy Renner's about to play a really bad version of like an Axl Rose wannabe in a movie, and this is just part of the marketing campaign. But
Yeah.
that's disgusting. But he's not even joking, because this is not this is like his second album. But
It's
I can't
fascinating.
wait.
I mean, do you remember the Jeremy Renner? This is becoming Jeremy Renner news. We need a jingle. But do you remember the Jeremy Renner
Don't
network?
Don't you dare even tempt me, Nick.
do you remember the
Jeremy Renner
Jeremy
news.
Renner launched an app, right? His own like social media app. You saw that, right?
No.
Jeremy,
No, I didn't.
he did. The Jeremy Renner app legitimately launched, and within like 3 weeks had been an absolute dumpster fire and shut down again. That's a recommendation for
you
you just
serious?
now. Just go off and read about the Jeremy Renner app, because the glorious highs and lows of that story are delightful in their own
Wait,
horrible way.
it was called the Jeremy Renner app?
It was called the Jeremy Renner app.
The Jeremy Renner app, launched in 2017, was meant to be a place to do, and I quote, fun things.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Go off and have a read of that. That's also delightful.
I'm downloading that app.
I'm gonna it's off the market. You can't get it anymore. another suggestion, second one from me. There's a comedian who I have discovered relatively recently who I am really digging stylistically. Her name's Meg Stalter. She does a lot of stuff on Twitter. She's I think she comes from an improv background, but in a quite an avant-garde, maybe UCB kind of way. And her style and mannerisms are very much like you, just fumbling over words and getting it wrong and then ending up with sentences that don't make sense, except she does it deliberately. She puts up these little... Too slow. Yeah, she puts up these videos on Twitter, which are sort of character-based jokes about aunt who just heard about the coronavirus, or someone just explaining their crockery cabinet, and these very strange characters, which I find delightful. But she's just launched a podcast called Confronting Demons with Meg Stalter, where she basically gets people on the podcast to have an argument with them, and she gets people that have wronged her, and she brings them on the podcast to abuse.
That is great.
And it's all the first episode has Chelsea Peretti, Gethard, someone Gethard. What's his name? Chris Gethard.
Greg.
Chris Gethard. Chris Gethard, Tim Dillon, Chelsea Peretti. She just calls these people up and basically says, why are you not at my podcast? You said you were going to be on the show. And they're they just get into a fight. It's really it's really.
But
good.
is it staged?
Yeah, it's staged.
That's fun though.
It's very fun. So Meg Stalter, really fun upcoming comedian. She's having a bit of a moment at the moment in this lockdown. There's people like Eva Victoria and this sort of thing who are coming up in this strange kind of little Twitter comedy moment and doing interesting things, and her podcast is really funny. Her brother's on the podcast as well. It's quite good.
Cool.
Anyway, I think that's probably enough little recommendations for this week.
I'm gonna slip in two more and not even talk about them. Okay. And it's just gonna be Thundercat just released a new album, which is great, and also Adam Buxton did a podcast with Malcolm Gladwell that is so fucking good.
Awesome.
Watch those.
Well, if you're looking for other things to do between listening to podcasts and watching TV shows, then you should jump back into our archives, because there are plenty more episodes back there. You can find it all at deepfort.podbean.com or in your podcast player of choice. We're on Facebook if you want to see interesting articles and follow up on conversations. Facebook.com/deepfort. Get a notification when an episode comes live on Twitter.com/deepfort, or on Instagram. Find Deepfort there. Our jingles and songs are on soundcloud.com/deepfort. And if you have a question or a recommendation or what did you do?
Oh, fuck. Oh my god. Fuck. Oh, dude.
All I saw was you had stood on your own chair and then somehow damaged yourself.
I'm so sorry to ruin your outro, but I just jammed my finger in between the table and the chair so fucking bad. Oh my god. That was the worst pain. I've felt in at least 4 months. So it was so fucking painful. Okay, sorry. You keep going with the intro. I'll just be here.
Deepfort@gmail.com if you have any medical advice or suggestions about how to ice sprained appendages. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Oh my god. That really hurt.